I guess you could call this a TIFU sandwich. What's up? It's me, Vince, your host for the RR Show. First story, r/IDontWorkHereLady. Then a couple of tasty ones from TIFU. Then our last story is r/malicious compliance. So keep listening to this episode of the RR Show as we begin right now. As I said, our first story comes from r/IDontWorkHereLady, posted by user Nothing to See Here 32. Bizarre half an hour. I am writing this post because this is the first time I have been this busy in a matter of half an hour. As the holiday approaches, people get a little mental, but I wasn't mentally prepared for today. In hindsight, it was a bizarre experience. I was doing my job stacking shelves in an aisle when a lady stopped me and asked me about the location of the eggs. I looked at her, unsure if she was joking as we stood before them. I told her to turn around. Then, before I could continue, another lady stopped next to me and handed me a broken cup of leaking cream along with all of her soiled items. She just pushed them into my hands before I could grab a box. The only thing I was thinking was, how nice of her that she didn't stick it on a random shelf. Because there is nothing more disgusting than finding a half-eaten, sometimes rotting food hidden on the shelves. So there I was, putting dirty items into a box to clean up along with myself, when a man stopped next to me and asked about the random item that sold out last week. He got very upset with me when I told him that it was gone and we wouldn't receive it again. It was just a one-time offer. I needed a manager to reiterate what I had said to him word for word. He just couldn't believe me. Finally, I got time to clean my uniform when I was stopped once again by another customer looking for an item we don't sell. The lady was insistent and even showed me a website where we allegedly advertised this product. This was the second time today I was sure someone was pranking me, as she showed me the ASDA homepage. That's a grocery store chain. We were not in ASDA, so as seriously as I could tell her, she was in the wrong shop. That she would certainly not find this particular item here, but I could offer an alternative. And an absolute cherry on top is that later today, when I was in ASDA and was going through self-checkout, an elder lady asked me for assistance. Although I was still in my uniform, mine wasn't green. But whatever. I helped her with the shopping and even brought it to her car as she realized I didn't work there. Funniest day ever. Our next story comes from r/TIFU, posted by user OwnWrangler6215. TIFU by going camping in the woods alone, and I'm still scared as I write this. I decided it'd be a great idea to go camping in the woods alone. Just me, my tent, and a weekend of solitude to clear my head. No distractions, no noise, just nature. I thought it sounded peaceful. It was not. Everything was fine at first. I found a spot, pitched my tent after struggling for way too long with the stupid poles, and even got a fire going, which I was way too proud of. By the time the sun started setting, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I had some snacks, a little folding chair, and a nice fire to keep me warm. Then the night fell. Ugh. I was not ready for how dark it gets in the woods. Like I thought my eyes would adjust, but nah. Every sound, the wind, the leaves, some animal far off, sounded like it was coming straight for me. I kept telling myself, you're fine, this is just what nature sounds like. But I was holding my flashlight like a sword just in case. Around midnight, I started hearing rustling that sounded way too close to my tent. It wasn't just the wind. This was something moving. My heart was racing. But I convinced myself that it was probably a raccoon or something. I stayed still, trying not to make any noise, but the sound just kept on getting louder and louder. And then I swear, what I heard sounded like footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling my tent. At this point, I'm losing it. I'm holding my pocket knife in one hand, shaking so bad, I'm probably useless if anything happens. I tried to turn off my flashlights so whoever or whatever it was wouldn't see me, but I was too scared even to reach for the button. The footsteps stopped, and there was silence for a few minutes. I was about to convince myself I imagined it when something tapped on the side of my tent. I have never been so close to passing out in my life. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just sat there, clutching my knife, wanting to die. Eventually, I heard the footsteps fade into the distance, and I forced myself to peek outside. I couldn't see anything, but I didn't feel safe staying there. So I packed up as fast as I could and booked it back to my car. It was the longest walk of my life, and I was 100% convinced something was following me the whole time. I drove home in the middle of the night, shaking the entire way. Still don't know what or who was out there. I'm never doing this again, ever. Our third story comes from r/TIFU again, posted by user Anonymous. TIFU by messaging my former manager that made my life a living hell. The pay was great, but I was treated like absolute crap every single time said manager was at our location. We will just call her Karen. For some reason, she just had it out for me. I tried being nice to her, tried doing things for her, and at one point even brought her the only chocolate she could eat, but she still treated me like complete crap. If there was a prescription counted incorrectly, I was always blamed, even though it had never been my fault. Then she always made me fix it nonetheless, even if someone admitted it was them. The thing is, these prescriptions have initials of whoever filled them on it. So either she wasn't checking or was targeting me in particular. I remember one time when I first started, I accidentally called Busaprone, Boost Bar, Wellbutrin, and she heard and proceeded to say she would choke me right in front of customers at the register. I reported her and nothing was done. Another point, she straight up allowed non-stop verbal abuse from another tech and even did nothing after said tech had shoved me off balance while I was knelt down. Reported her again, nothing was done. Then, after all that abuse, my mental state rapidly deteriorated, and it resulted in me getting fired for my social issues due to negative reviews at the cash register. That's a different story for another time, but in short, I sued them and settled about 2 months ago. Well, since then, I have been trying to put all that behind me and have been trying to find closure on everything to get past it all. So here is where it happened. I still have her number, so I sent her a text basically just asking her what I did to make her hate me and abuse me. Told her how she made my life a living hell. Told her she was one of the major reasons behind my mental decline. I never got a response from her. Well, I was texting one of my other former pharmacists that actually treated me right. Told him about the text to her. Then he told me that she left the pharmacy about a month after I was terminated because she was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. I sent her an apology, but she never got back to me. I know her cancer isn't my fault, and it's not an excuse to treat people like crap. But even though I despised her with every fiber of my being, I wouldn't wish cancer on anyone. So, I've been feeling like crap over it for the last week. Our final story of this episode comes from r /malicious compliance, posted by user, and excuse me for probably butchering your username. It's Junior Ty, Jerty, or Jertai, I don't know. Well, just thank you for the story and giving us permission to read it. The story title is, We Don't Stop for Birds. Many years ago, when I was 15 years old, I was enrolled in a driver's education course to get my learner's permit. This involves several sessions riding around with the instructor and 2 other students in the car, taking turns driving and observing. This Saturday morning, I was first up and pulling out of the school parking lot when a dozen small sparrows flew right in front of my windshield. I lightly tapped the brakes and the instructor ordered me to pull over. He always had you pull over and stop before he reprimanded you. He sternly told me, we don't stop for birds. I argued that I just lightly tapped the brakes as they flew inches from my windshield and it was not done in panic. He reiterated that we do not stop for birds. A half hour later, we are a ways outside of town, a little over 100 miles west of San Antonio, Texas, and I'm still driving. The speed limit in this rural area is 70 miles an hour, which my cruise control is set to, a speed the Geo Metro's 3-cylinder engine is struggling to maintain. We come over the top of a hill, and there's a half a dozen wild turkeys slowly crossing the road up ahead. I keep in mind my instructor's orders not to stop for birds and maintain my course. As we near the birds, I show no sign of slowing down, and the instructor hit his brake on his side of the car and abruptly yells at me to pull over. He makes me get completely out of the car and started to berate me about not slowing down for the turkeys. With a straight face, I say, "Sir, you told me not to stop for birds." He gets a bit flustered and then stammers, "You know what I meant," and ordered me to switch places with the girl in the back seat. I didn't get to drive anymore that day, but this was my only major incident, so I still passed the course and got my permit. Not so funny side story. This girl that replaced me was the worst driver I've still ever ridden with to this day. He should have never passed her and allowed her to get her license. A year after this, when she was pulling into a Sonic, she mixed up the gas and the brake and plowed through the picnic tables, sending a family of 4 to the hospital. So thanks for being with us. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, please follow or subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra nice, you might as well leave a 5-star review. But for more, visit the website, rrshow.com. That is rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince. Thank you to my producer, Kevin, and we'll see you next time here on The RR Show.